Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for a rare occurrence on this channel, a book haul. I don't do a lot of book hauls. I mainly just stick to the stuff I've got and try to work through as much of that as possible. This channel is less so oriented towards the sort of consumer end of the internet. And I'm not demonizing it. I mean, it is what it is, but more oriented towards the actual content, the actual literature side of what is known as BookTube, to which I don't think I necessarily subscribe. But got 5 books here that I thought I would talk about because I got them recently. And we're going to start here with Virginia Woolf, To the Lighthouse. And I have very, very, very limited experience with Virginia Woolf. So I wanted to read the back of this in order, not because this is how I'm going to conceptualize it. So the back cover says, To the Lighthouse is made up of 3 powerfully charged visions into the life of the Ramsay family, living in a summer house off the rocky coast of Scotland. There's the serene and maternal Mrs. Ramsay, the tragic yet absurd Mr. Ramsay, their 8 children, and assorted holiday guests. From the seemingly trivial postponement of a visit to a nearby lighthouse, Virginia Woolf examines tensions and allegiances and shows the small joys and quiet tragedies of everyday life that seemingly could go on forever. Now, someone had requested that I do more Virginia Woolf, and eventually I will get to this novel. But the reason I chose this one is that it very much reminds me of the setup to a William Faulkner novel. It sounds like a William Faulkner novel to me, but it also sounds a little bit like Jane Austen. This is not to demean what it is that Virginia Woolf is in her own right. That's not what I mean to do at all. But I think that it helps to bring your own context into texts sometimes because it gives you a bearing in what is going on. The next book on the list here, there are 5 of them, so number 2 of 5, John Milton, Areopagitica, and Other Writings. There is in the motivational spaces a term known as sharpening the axe. What does this mean? If you and your neighbor are trying to cut down the most trees to be able to fuel your house for the winter, but you're working off of the same land, you start chopping away with your axe, right? And you realize soon enough, your neighbor's not cutting down any trees. He's just sitting there sharpening his axe, back and forth, shink, shink, shink. You've got 3 and 4 trees down. Well, this guy's never going to have all the warmth he needs for the winter. Shink, shink, shink. You're 4 trees in, 4.5, 5 trees before that guy gets up off of his stump. Well, his axe is so much sharper than yours by that point that he's able to cut down 3 trees to the time that it takes you to cut down 1 tree. So, very shortly into this journey, all of a sudden, he's got more trees than you. I feel, from a literary critic standpoint, as if I have not spent enough time sharpening the axe over the last couple of years. The only real large literary idea that has worked its way into my vocabulary over that time is hauntology, an idea from Jacques Derrida. I need to pick back up some heavily academic texts because I have gotten away from that. Areopagitica is a defense of free speech. I have mentioned it a couple times on the channel. I didn't even own a copy. And John Milton is one of the preeminent voices not just on free speech, but on many of the ideas of his era. So I have never read John Milton, I don't think. It's possible that I had to pick some up now and then through academe, but I do not think that on large scale I have ever read John Milton. The next one is a book that I've wanted for a few years now. Real Artists Don't Starve by Jeff Goowens. I'll journey to another back cover. We've heard it 1,000 times. There's no money in art. It's too risky. You'll starve. So we end up chasing more stable careers. We become lawyers and doctors and bankers instead of poets and filmmakers and painters. We settle. The truth is, we do not have to choose between a creative life and a prosperous one. Drawing lessons from the likes of Jim Henson, C.S. Lewis, Dr. Dre, and many others, best-selling author and entrepreneur Jeff Goowens invites us to drop the myths, worries, and flat-out lies that have been drilled into us our entire lives, and instead reveals an empowering truth. Real artists don't starve, they thrive. I have no idea how hokey-pokey this is. I have no idea whether this is just one of those books that people buy and read in order to feel better about their lives, but just the title alone sold me. Part 1, Mindset. You aren't born an artist. Stop trying to be original. Apprentice under a master. Harness your stubbornness. Part 2, Market. Cultivate patrons. Go join a scene. Collaborate with others. Practice in public. Part 3, Money. Don't work for free. Own your work. Diversify your portfolio. Make money to make art. Conclusion. Join the new Renaissance. So it seems like a fairly breezy read. Maybe this is something that I will make a series for on the channel if it turns out to be anything worth talking about. Then, from a recommendation, Big Fish by Daniel Wallace, a novel of mythic proportions. In his prime, Edward Bloom was an extraordinary man. He could outrun anybody. He never missed a day of school. He saved lives and tamed giants. Animals loved him. People loved him. Women loved him. He knew more jokes than any man alive. At least that's what he told his son, William. But now Edward Bloom is dying, and William wants desperately to know the truth about his elusive father, this indefatigable teller of tall tales, before it's too late. So using the few facts he knows, William recreates Edward's life in a series of legends and myths, through which he begins to understand his father's great feats and his great failings. The result is hilarious and wrenching, tender, and outrageous. Again, one might be tempted to say shades of William Faulkner in that description. The legends of people that we know. I have scheduled in the TBR sections 1 and 2 of Big Fish for this month. So I'm not sure if we'll get there. I am hoping to get there, and we will see at that point. And finally, last month was National Poetry Month, and what I did in that month was I tried to do videos the likes of which I have never done before. I had, for each of those videos, an intro, a biography of the writer, a brief summary of the type of stuff the writer wrote, and then an analysis on the poem. Along the way, I wrote a brief 500-ish word biography for Charles Bukowski. And it made me nostalgic for Bukowski. Haven't done a whole lot of Bukowski on the channel lately, haven't read a whole lot of Bukowski on my own. So, more notes of a dirty old man, The Uncollected Columns by Charles Bukowski. Charles Bukowski was a columnist for a small newspaper in California that ended up going under, but his column was optioned by another publication. So he started publishing it under another publication. And it just made me wonder, made me curious, and God, I love Bukowski. So anyway, those are the 5 books that I have in a book haul for this month. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other book lovers, other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel. There is poetry every Monday. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.